Hi Facebook, happy Thursday. I just got out of the prosecutor's office talking to Vigo County Prosecutor Terry Modizet. He spoke and gave us a press release as well as a copy of the plea agreement in the Bryce Switzer-Couthen versus the state of Indiana plea agreement that happened today, as well as the sentencing. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a rundown from this morning and from the meeting with Modizet. So in the plea agreement hearing this morning, I can tell you first of all that it was a packed room. There were people who actually had to stand outside. There were a ton of people there to support the Pirelli family. Jenna Pirelli's immediate family, her parents and her sisters, were not present, but there were people who spoke on the family's behalf, and there were family friends there and more extended family members. A lot of people wearing the Jenna Pirelli Angel Wing 22 shirts that the softball team had made, and just a lot of support for the side of the story that is the unfortunate tragic loss of Jenna Pirelli. And there were several people there also on the side of Bryce Switzer-Couthen. There was his mother was, I believe, in attendance. I believe that is the woman who spoke on his behalf. And then there was several younger people, and also there were some people who had some connections to probably both of them that were in the room. So it was a very emotional day, and we put out a story already. I will link it to this as soon as I'm done with this Facebook Live. But it was a very emotional hearing, and the nuts and bolts of the hearing, which you may have already read in our story, but I will include here now. He will be sentenced to 300 days at the Indiana Department of Correction. He will be on probation until he is 19 years old. He is currently 16 years old. His driving privileges are suspended. His license is suspended for 4 years, so he will be 20 years old when his license is reinstated. The crash that this is all surrounded happened on February 14th. The charges were filed March 1st, and the Vigo County prosecutor filed for a waiver into adult court. So the office of the Vigo County prosecutor, so the office of Terry Modizet, filed for a waiver into adult court. That was dismissed, and due to the sensitivity of the case and the Pirelli family not wanting to go through trial, wanting to have a resolution so that there was as little continued suffering as possible, they decided to resolve this case before it was actually technically resolved. They moved forward on it, and they decided to come to this hearing, get this plea agreement, and have the sentencing take place without a trial. So, again, he will be serving 300 days on each count. He did not plead guilty. So, because he is a juvenile, he's not technically pleading guilty. He is admitting to the counts. So, he admitted to count 1, reckless homicide, a level 5 felony, if he were adult, and count 3, criminal recklessness, a level 6 felony if he were adult. So counts 2 and 4 that he was under will be dismissed. And it says upon completion of his sentence, he will be on probation and supervised by Vigo County or Clay County Juvenile Probation Department until the age of 19. So again, for the next 3 years, after he gets out of the Department of Correctional Facility, he will be under probation. He will have no contact with the family of Jenna Pirelli. That is something that was also included in this plea agreement. And it says that he will receive credit for time already served in juvenile detention from March 1st, which is 104 days is what this is telling me here. So the child agreed to this, and that is an important thing to note, is he is considered a juvenile, he is considered a child. They denied the motion to waive him into adult court, so he was held in the juvenile court today, so he is being considered a juvenile, a minor, a child still. So under Indiana law, the conduct is, even if it's committed by an adult, it would constitute as reckless homicide and not murder. And this is something that Terry Modis had actually brought up to us, that he has been working with Senator John Ford to create legislation and have legislation pushed through. They heard some legislation, and he spoke on behalf of it at the State House during this past General Assembly, but he and John Ford and some other politicians have been working toward creating a heavier penalty for cases like this where a life is taken. So in Terry Modis's words, he cannot speak ethically to whether or not he thinks that this went about the right way or this was resolved in the technically right way, but he did make the comment that due to a life being taken, in this case 17-year-old Jenna Pirelli, there is reasoning for a heavier penalty in his mind and in the mind of Senator John Ford and some other legislators and politicians. So they are working toward, in the future, some legislation to change that, and instead of having a lighter penalty, having a heavier sentence for situations where this is happening. He said that this is a crime. There was reckless driving involved, and when, as the judge said in the Juvenile Court this morning, when a person gets behind the wheel, they have the ability to take a life. And so it's more than just a tragedy, this is a crime. And so therefore, the sentence that was carried out, he will have to pay for his crimes. There will be conversation of whether or not this is enough, I'm sure, in the community. But as of right now, there hasn't been really anything said other than the plea agreement, and really I don't anticipate any more discussion about this from officials, because now the sentencing has been carried out and he will now be serving 300 days at the Indiana Department of Correction, and then he will be on probation, and then he will be in the system forever for this. So he will have this on his record, and that will be something that will always be remembered. So whether or not you feel like this is something that is fair, I don't anticipate us getting much comments in the way of fairness or that in terms of from any officials, but we do have some of the interview that we did with Terry Modis that will be airing tonight, where he talks a little bit about this case and gives some of his thoughts. And we also have some shots of some of the people that were in attendance today at the hearing. We did not have a camera inside the hearing, so we won't have any photos or video of Bryce himself, which, being that this is a juvenile case and a more sensitive case, that is usually how things are handled. So for now, I will link the story that we have in this post, but we will be continuing to update you on anything. Again, I don't anticipate there being too many updates on this, because it is now, the sentencing has happened. He has admitted to 2 counts, and so he now will be serving his sentence, be on probation, have his license suspended. He will have no contact with the Pirelli family, and while this is a tragedy that will continue to live on in people's minds and in people's hearts, and there is still plenty of healing to be done as far as the legislative process for this, it ended today, and so now we are left with the sentencing that happened, and we will continue to update you guys on any updates that we get, but for now I will link our story that went up on the web a couple of hours ago to this, and you can tune in, I'm sure, at noon. It might already be noon, and if you don't catch us at noon, you can catch us at 5 and 6 tonight. I'm sure we'll have something at 11. And again, we will continue to update you on social media and on our website, mywabashvalley.com. Thank you for tuning into this. I know there's a lot to process, and trying to handle this case in the most sensitive of ways while also wrapping our heads around all of the, steps that were and weren't taken in terms of there's no trial. It's over today. So kind of trying to wrap that around and figure out the best way to inform everyone. So this is a very sensitive case. We are aware of that, and we want to make sure that we are handling it in the best way for all parties involved. So for now, you can watch this and know that there will be more information coming, and we will continue to update you. Thank you so much for tuning in.